Good afternoon. Welcome back to the ice box of my plant room. The snow finally stopped falling and it's actually starting to kind of melt and drip off the top of the roof, which it was pretty while it lasted. I decided, well, since it's cold out, I can come to my little tropical retreat and I can repot a couple things today because I have some things that kind of need it, and it's supposed to be kind of sunny. It's supposed to be kind of sunny moving forward this week, and the snow should not be coming back. I will be repotting for sure my Anthurium crystallinum, and I think I will do a couple of pot extensions for some of my Anthurium, probably like 2 of them. I have 2 that are getting large for the pots that they're in, but I don't quite want to size them up to an 8-inch pot. Mostly because I don't have space for too many 8-inch pots, as well as I forgot my other reason. I definitely don't have room for 8-inch pots. Also, I don't have any 8-inch pots to pot them into, which is kind of annoying. I work at a plant shop, but we just never get in good 8-inch pots. I know the rave right now is all clear pots. Clear pots are nice. If I ever have them, I'll use them. But I'm not going to go out of my way to get some if I already have some black pots. That work just fine. It is nice to be able to see your roots, but I'd rather just use the things that I have. I'd rather just use the things that I have already at my expense. But yeah, let's set that up. Well, let's get my crystallinum up. It's actually this one right here. So I currently have this crystallinum, Anthurium crystallinum, in this kind of funny, teeny tiny pot, and it's done great, and it's liked it, but now it dries out so fast. So we're gonna go ahead and size it up. I do like to keep them in small pots to start, but this sucker sized up really fast. Oh, it's got a new inflow coming in, and I need to collect pollen off of this guy. But so the goal is move this Anthurium crystallinum, probably some sort of hybrid, can't say for sure. It looks just like a regular old crystallinum, into this 6-inch pot. It's a little bit taller. I like taller pots for my Anthurium, just so as they grow up, I don't have to do a pot extension like I will be doing for a couple of my other ones, which happen to be in shorter 6-inch pots, because it's more aesthetically pleasing to just go ahead and have them in these taller pots, and less work down the road. These things size out of pots so fast already that I wonder if I should even do that, but let's get at it. Yeah. So let's see what we're working with. Good roots. And this soil doesn't look as chunky as I would usually do, but good roots nonetheless. Let's see if you can see. I'll bring her a little bit closer. Decent roots, not the craziest roots for Anthurium, but I know this guy's just going to enjoy this repot a little bit better. And then we can go ahead and utilize these aerial roots right here. Whenever we pot it up, it'll appreciate the repot. And then I'll have this nice little 5-inch pot, which come in really handy for Anthurium. Just kind of size them out of their like seedling pots. I'm using my regular old chunky aeroid mix, which is a mix of like 1 part Fox Farm Coco Loco. A lot of people like the Ocean Forest one. I tend to like the Coco Loco a little bit better. I've seen a lot of people using tree fern fiber for their anthuriums, as well as people just moving anthurium straight into pond, which, if it works for you, that's amazing. I know anthurium could do really well in pond. I just really like I like getting my hands dirty, as well as I've only ever really grown in soil. I have a couple things in pond, and they do well. I could see it doing really well for alocasia long term, but for now I think I'm just gonna grow my anthurium in my aeroid chunky mix. It feels to me like the safer route. Not to say that it is, but it's just what I kind of like to do. And what I'm doing is I didn't break up that soil or that root system at all before doing this. I don't really like to do that with anthurium. They can be kind of picky if we mess with their roots. So what I'm doing is just keeping that root ball as it is. I filled it up a little bit at the base, and from here I'm just going to tap in the backfill that I've been doing. And I like these almost softer pots because I can feel exactly where that soil is going in. And if I have any gaps, which I guess you could just see in a clear pot, but who needs to see when you could just feel? No, clear pots are really useful. We just have so many pots at the shop that if people don't want them, we're just gonna toss them because they don't really recycle. Cool. And that is an Anthurium crystallinum repot. Cool. And then we can do the pot extension. I'll kind of show you what that looks like on I have a Pappy that I have the pot extension on at the moment. Ignore the foliage. It's been through a little bit of flat mites, but so it's basically a 4-inch size pot that I just extended up and then tied together. There we go. So you can see that I filled it up with aeroid mix and it's already rooting into it. I can feel it on the sides. That way I don't have to try and find a new tall pot and do a whole new repot. Right now this guy's happy in the pot that it's in. I don't really like to disturb him too much if I don't have to. And then from there I can just kind of raise that. I don't know if it's even considered the soil level, but it's just basically air layering. Kind of what I was showing you in my philodendron tour. This is, I guess, a form of air layering. But it's really simple, really easy. It's not the prettiest, but it gets the job done really well. Oh, isn't this so pretty? This is the Woo Pap crossed with the novelty Ace of Spades. I got this one at PlantCon. There's a little new emergent right there. Really pretty Anthurium. Dark and velvety. It's struggled. It's had a little bit of flat mites. I guess it's kind of hard to tell on camera, but in person it's a little bit ugly on the older leaves. This one looks exactly how it looks in person on camera, so yay. But this is what I'm going to be doing on a regular old Magnificum, and then I will also be doing it on my Clarinervium pterodactyl hybrid. And they have such funny names. Here's that Magnificum hybrid. Nothing special, but you can see it has all of this area. New leaf has all this area where it could be rooting into some sort of substrate. And you can get it to root into substrates in a couple different ways. I like the pot extension with aeroid mix a little bit better. But another way that I'll do it is, this one desperately needs to be watered, but this is same thing with a whorl. Same thing, But with moss, oh yeah, I need to water this today. It dried out with the heater going. New leaf, old leaves. But you can do the same thing with moss. Dries out a little bit faster, and it can be a little bit more of a hassle to rehydrate if it does dry out, which is never ideal if it dries out. I'm actually kind of annoyed with myself that this is dry like that. But it's been basically a vacation with the snow days. So basically what I'm going to do is just exactly what I just described. Kind of cut down this 4-inch pot. I like to take the lip of the pot off just because I find them to be a little bit annoying. There we go. Easy. And then I will cut off that base. And I wish there was a way that I could just just cut the top and bottom off and then slide this over where the base could be. If the plant was skinny enough, you could probably do it with Anthurium. They just end up taking a lot of space width-wise, and their leaves can get massive. Plus, you don't really want to put too many sharp things near the new emergence. They're so easy to damage, and then as they expand, they'll just kind of get pretty ugly if we damage them. So, let's see. What I might do... No, I won't. I'm half tempted to just cut this leaf off. It's an older leaf anyways. So that this will fit. Well, let's see what this looks like. I might need to. Let's just try and tie it, and then if it chops it off naturally, then we cut it. If it seems to hold, it'll be good. You just kind of play it by ear as you go. Let's see what happens. I've only done this this style with a few of my Anthurium. There is a better way. That same guy that I use his moss poles, Russo, he has a pot extender, and I thought, that's really smart. Let me just do that at home. So I just tie it. Yeah, that looks great. Not to toot my own horn, but that looks perfect. Let's go. And from there, I will bring this right here. And you can kind of just see, I'm going to take this chunky mix and backfill right into that little indent that I made. Slap it, let it settle. Cool. And just like that, it has been air layered, and that leaf hasn't even been affected. That should be a big one. But yeah, you can see it's kind of telling me it's ready for a repot, and I can feel it around the sides. I just don't want to put it in an 8-inch pot. I have this clary in an 8-inch pot, and even this one is starting to say, I need you to move me up to a new pot. I don't know if you can see, these are the thickest roots. I'll move closer. That's literally the size of my finger. That's funny. Clary. But that makes sense coming from a terrestrial Anthurium. Terrestrial meaning that it is from terres. No, meaning that it is a ground Anthurium, whereas most Anthurium, I say most, I actually don't know the amount. I would venture to say at least majority of the ones that we have in our homes are going to be the ones that are up in the trees, clinging to the bark, and that's why they like these really chunky mixes, similar to like orchids, where they're just clinging and constantly be getting wet, but never really staying soaking wet. So it's constantly getting rained on, being damp with high humidity, but it's never sitting in a substrate that is just sopping wet, which is kind of what we're trying to emulate in our homes. That's why we do, or I do, a very chunky mix. So as soon as I water, it'll go straight through. It'll get all of this moist, but it's never going to be like soaking wet. And I will water and then let any of that water that sits at the bottom, if it's there in like 2 or 3 days when I check again, I'll toss it. But most of the time I just let it sit in it. And I see zero problems. So they definitely like the moisture. And while at the same time they do like high humidity, but in our homes it can be pretty difficult to emulate that humidity. So we're trying to mitigate that again with our chunky soil so that we can water it so often in our homes that is almost creating its own like humidity pocket, as well as it might be like, it's hard to describe. Because we're watering it so much, it doesn't really miss out on that humidity too often, and they will acclimate to, a lot of them can acclimate to pretty standard household humidities, whether it be like 40 to 50. My room really just stays like right now we're at 50% humidity. Granted, I have been running a heater and a humidifier, so it just kind of equals it out. But I'll say my plant room probably stays around 60% most of the time. It's nothing crazy. I don't have any cabinets that holds that high humidity, and I have a lot of different Anthurium, especially like the Waros that people say really need high humidity, but mine seems to be doing just fine. Anthurium, Clarinervium, pterodactyl hybrid. It's a really pretty plant. Let's get that in place. This one was my first Anthurium. I can't remember if it was this one or Radicans luxurians. This is the one that I still have. And I think that this was the one that followed, if it wasn't the first one. This one followed that Radicans luxurians almost immediately. But part of me thinks this was my first. The Radicans luxurians I no longer have. This one and that Radicans luxurians boosted my confidence on Anthurium, because really, I guess even still, people give Anthurium a bad rap for being kind of difficult. Granted, 2 years ago, I thought Anthurium are impossible. They're impossible to keep alive. That's mostly because I didn't have one. No, it was probably 3 years ago. What year is it? 2025. I've had this one for a long time. I don't know how long. Time kind of blends in. But they're actually, if you have several plants that you can stay really consistent with, consistency is the only thing that keeps people from maintaining Anthurium well. That and potentially having them in a mix that they don't really care for. They definitely they become easier whenever you have all of your basics down. Basics being like feeding, like fertilizing, consistency in water, and you kind of have your light down. Anthurium, they can handle a lot of light. They're also ones that do really well in that medium bright light. You can even keep them in low light. They'll just start to get looking a little bit dull. And they won't really have as big of nice new emergence. And there's a lot of arguments. No, there's speculation on keeping your Anthurium in that more indirect light, whether your Anthurium will be, especially those more velvety ones, they'll be a little bit darker, richer. To me, that kind of comes out to fertilizing them. You can theoretically, in that bright light where it's not really direct sun, that might turn out to make the color a little bit darker and more rich. But most of the time, it comes down to what you're feeding them, in my opinion. I have plenty of dark leaves, and this is south, that's west, and I also supplement with grow lights. Granted, in the summer, I have a tree right here that actually blocks all of this light, so it's not the most stable conditions. It can be kind of hard to tell what's going on, because whenever this plant room is getting the best light is during winter. That could be argued. I guess it depends on the plant. I don't know. It's a lot of back and forth. All right, let's go ahead and get this guy air layered. I don't really want to mess with the emergent, and we'll do the exact same thing with the other. We'll go ahead and tie it. Where did I put that plant tape? There it is. There. Tie it around. Not too tight, but Goldilocks it. Not too tight, but just tight enough. Was Goldilocks kind of a jerk? She just walked in and started eating their stuff. Or maybe I don't remember that tale too well. The bears were just chilling and she started stealing. I wouldn't be happy if someone ate my food without asking. Granted, I don't know that I actually want porridge that much. There we go. And then, same thing, just backfill it. This one has a wider gap at the bottom, but I think that we might end up being okay. I don't know how this could hurt it too bad. It's so chunky that it's not going to like flow through that bottom crack. So chunky that it's not going to go straight through. Even when I water, it'll just kind of hold its place. And if it does go through, I'll just top it back up. Usually the roots will kind of grab on by the time you see anything weird going on. And that soil won't start moving once the roots start going into it. The sun is coming straight through. It makes me look like a ghost. Oh well. I might try doing manual mode, or not manual, automatic with the light. I do a lot of photography, and everything I do is manual. But with the light changing, and since I'm not like in a studio with the video, I might throw it onto automatic because this keeps changing. I don't mind. This one definitely is wanting a new pot. I hate to tell you, pterodactyl, you're not going into a 10-inch. Because, well, you're not going into an 8-inch anytime soon, I don't think. Until I can find one. I don't think it'll care. It's still actively putting out new growth and inflows. Maybe I'll try and hybridize this one. I don't have any pollen in the freezer. Granted, I don't actually know, because Anthurium can get kind of tricky on which ones can take pollen from different groups. With these, you don't see them being crossed with too many other things. I could rehybridize it with clary, but do I want that many seeds of something that might not be that cool? I don't know. I'll think on it. But we got this guy done. And you can kind of tell why it's wanting. Look, it's a root. That's a root. Oh, oops. That's a root. But yeah, so we're good. Got the soil in there, watering through. The plastic will keep that moisture in there pretty high. We should be good to go. Bam. Cool. I think we'll call it there. Thanks for following along. Let me know if this was helpful. I enjoy doing those little makeshift things, so let me know if you do stuff like that at home. I used to do a lot of the makeshift, like DIY moss poles. Some things it works for, some things it doesn't. Now I've switched all to Rousseau poles. If it works and it's easy, I'd say do the DIY things. But if they have it down to a science and it makes your life easier, you might as well go that way. But yeah, we'll call it there. I actively am trying to not say I'm embracing the pause. That's what Google says to do. I Googled, how do I stop saying every 3 seconds? And Google was not the most helpful. It said, embrace the pause. But I think I did better this episode, or this video. But yeah, again, let me know if this was helpful to you. Let me know what DIY projects you do at home. And yeah, it's good to see you. Can't wait to see you soon. Bye.